I I'm not gonna lie, guys. I kind of like this kid.
Are we having fun yet?
So today we're talking about Romeo Langford, and man, I kind of like his game. I'm not gonna lie to you, I kind of like his game. So before we talk about him, if you guys want to support the channel, it's only $2 per month for Patreon and YouTube members. I will be doing a trivia prize at the end of the month, the last Friday of the month, in which I will send out a link to Patreon and YouTube members for you guys to be able to compete for this Tim Duncan plaque. But that's besides the point, okay? Thank you guys so much for helping me reach 5K. Like, I try to put as much effort into this channel as possible, and it just means a lot to me. I know a lot of channels, it might not seem like a lot, but a lot of channels can't make it there, and the fact that we're at 5K just speaks volumes of what you guys are doing for me. So thank you guys so much, and I really do appreciate it. So let's go ahead and go straight into this. So I'm not the one to go in here and just say, oh yeah, let me just break down every single facet of a player's game, because that's not really my style. But I do go back and I watch highlights and I try to get the overall feel of what the community says about him. And I have to say, I really dig his game. Now, it's not something where I see him as having a ceiling that's so high to the point where he could be like a potential superstar. I don't see that. I've seen a lot of comments from Celtics fans specifically. I guess they will be the only ones that actually care. But yeah, so a lot of Celtics fans have said, oh my goodness, he's going to be a star. He's going to be amazing. And I don't know. I see a lot of different players in his game, but I want to try to keep it in house. And there's one player in particular that he reminds me of. And I know this is going to sound a little crazy. It's going to sound a little ridiculous, but he reminds me of Keldon Johnson. There's a lot of parts to his game where I'm like, oh, he plays similar to Keldon Johnson. Now, he might be a little more loose, you know, as you know, like early on, especially early on, Keldon Johnson was a little flat-footed. He still has that a little bit, but he's gotten much better. But this guy definitely reminds me of Keldon Johnson. So let me go ahead and talk about Romeo. No, not that Romeo. This Romeo. That was a terrible joke. All right, so I wanted to bring up his scouting. So this is what people were saying about him, you know, prior to him being drafted. So here we go. He is here's the pros, and I actually agree with this. Oftentimes I go back to this and I'm like, some of these are wrong, but I actually agree with these. So gifted scorer off the dribble, tremendous free throw generator, excels at scoring on the move, can post up smaller players, prolific scorer, adequate playmaker, good rebounder, decent defender, solid athlete, has a long wingspan. And then the con says, need to improve his shooting, prone to hoisting up questionable shots, needs to improve his free throw shooting, can be careless on offense, can be too ball dominant. Look, this is what I'm getting. I'm getting that it's just certain amount of mental lapses that he has, and he's prone to mental lapses. That's what I kind of get out of some of the cons that they listed here. So with me, why do I think that he reminds me of Keldon Johnson? Well, for one thing that I've noticed about his game is that it's nothing that really stands out as, oh my goodness, his ball handling is phenomenal. But I will say he's very patient getting to the rim and getting to his spot. Usually it seems as if he knows where he wants to go with the ball, but he has just enough patience and just enough poise to get there. Now, there is a big, and I mean big, difference between him and Keldon Johnson. And I think that it's a big deal, okay? And this is going to be a big problem. So this is a red flag that I see. I've seen quite a bit, you know, just from what I've been looking up, I've seen quite a bit of him sometimes, as I said, mental lapses, but not being as aggressive defensively. Now, we know as Keldon Johnson is 120 miles per hour, like every single play. And that's not necessarily the same thing with Langford from what I've seen. He has a lot of things in his arsenal. He can get to the rim. He can shoot fairly well. He's a decent defender. I wouldn't say he's an elite defender, but he's a decent defender. But there are times where he has mental lapses to the point where I'm like, dude, like you could be so much better. But here's the good news. If the Spurs were to keep him, and this is me making a huge assumption that we're going to keep him, okay? But if the Spurs were to keep him, they genuinely want this player. I think that under Pop, and I know people say, well, Pop's going to be gone. Well, Pop still has a season with us, okay? At least, very least, okay? Under Pop, he could develop into a very fine player. Now, I do say this a lot, and this is one thing that I stick with, and I truly do believe this. Players that have mental lapses at this point of their career, like when they're getting into the NBA, even when they're young players, usually those mental lapses don't really go away. It's always something there. You know what I mean? Like if you come into the league and you're very confident and you're very 120 miles per hour, like every single game, that usually doesn't go away. But the problem is also the opposite, where I've seen so many times a player comes in and they might have a few confidence issues, or they're not aggressive all the time, and it will show. It's going to show for probably the rest of their career. They can work on it, but it's always going to be there. It's always going to be something that's lacking mentally, and it's not to say that you can't change it at all. Okay, there's players that can change it, but your percentages are not on your side. Like even if we want to just, as I said, keep it in house, Lonnie Walker has improved many things of his game. Like he has. He came in a pretty good facilitator, but he's an even better facilitator. He can get to the rim, better than he could before. He's a better shooter, I would say, overall than, he was when he came in, but he still lacks that little bit of mentality. There's something there that is missing from Lonnie Walker. And it's the same thing with a lot of players that come into the league. Now, kudos to my boy Swish Hill, okay? I talk to Swish Hill all the time, and he mentioned this, and I love this point, is that maybe a change of culture can change a guy quite a bit as well. Like if you're talking about Andrew Wiggins, in which I always felt like he was an underachiever. Well, him with the Warriors, not to say that mental lapses aren't still there, but he doesn't necessarily have to be the arbiter of high IQ, high strength, game is on the line, toughness. He doesn't necessarily have to be that, because he has so many players on his team that are championship prone and won championships and are tough mother effers. So he doesn't necessarily have to be that. And that's the same thing I think with our boy Romeo. If he stays with the Spurs, I am expecting good things from him, but I'm not expecting him to turn into that next level star that I might feel is possible with obviously Josh Primo. And Josh Primo is a good example too. I just want to bring this up really quick. One thing about Josh is he's super confident. Josh Primo is super confident, and that's kind of a big deal. He's extraordinarily confident, and I haven't seen one game of his thus far where he put his head down or he points the finger, which is really young. Of course, he's not pointing the finger yet, but I haven't seen him point the finger. I haven't seen him just not take responsibility for his own game. He's continuously putting all the weight on himself and putting it on his shoulders, and that's going to carry over later on in his career. But certain players, man, when they don't have that mentality, it's just upsetting. But with Romeo, look, I don't think he'll have to have all that, but I will say that that's one thing that's lacking. That's a big red flag. But other than that, he has everything in his arsenal to be really, really good. Really, really good. So we'll see what happens. That's just my thoughts on him. Sorry if I kind of rambled a little bit. It was just, I don't know. It was quite a bit on my mind when it comes to this kid. But honestly, I do like him. I genuinely do like him. And I'll say this too. He's a Spurs type player, if you know what I mean. He doesn't show a ton of emotion, as you can see. He's making these shots, and you're not gonna see him scream once. It's just watch. You're not gonna. Yeah, he's bored out there. But all right. Well, I'll get with you guys later, man. If you want to support the channel, as always, subscribe, join the Discord, bro. What? Join the Discord. Or if you want to be a patron of YouTube, remember that's awesome too. I'll get with you guys later. Till next time.